live in a world where we have to grow up. People in this business fall by the wayside because we forget that all of us ultimately answer to people.
Molly Qerim exiting ESPN, exiting First Take quite abruptly, one might say. Last night, Austin Karp of Sports Business Journal reported that Molly Qerim was exiting at the end of the year, but it turns out she is exiting effective immediately.
The internet is in a frenzy right now. Stephen A. Smith just lit the fuse when he hinted at the real reason why his longtime First Take co-host, Molly Qerim, suddenly walked away from ESPN after nearly 20 years on the grind. And the story shaping up behind the scenes looks a whole lot messier than anyone expected. Let's run it back, because this wasn't just a casual goodbye. This was an exit nobody saw coming. On September 16th, 2025, the sports media world was rocked to its core when Molly announced her shocking resignation.
Normally, our friend Molly Qerim would greet you. However, Molly announced last night she will be departing from ESPN. She's hosted First Take for 10 years and elevated the show with her grace, her expertise, and incomparable kindness. She's been an enormous part of our success for a decade. Not only did she keep me and many others in line, she did it with dignity and class and kindness, to say the least.
After 19 years with ESPN and 10 of those spent as the calm yet commanding moderator of First Take, she was out, just like that. Fans were blindsided, colleagues were stunned, and even Stephen A. himself looked shaken. Here's the part that makes it so wild. On Monday, September 15th, Molly was right there on set, doing what she always did best, keeping heated debates in check and holding down the show with her trademark poise. By the very next morning, gone. Not a vacation, not a temporary break. Gone completely, cutting ties with the very network that had been her professional home since 2006. At first, reports from Sports Business Journal suggested she'd stick around until year's end, giving ESPN time to send her off properly. But the bombshell came when Molly jumped on Instagram with a post that flipped the entire story upside down. She admitted, "The news came out earlier than I intended," which instantly told everyone that something went sideways behind closed doors. This wasn't your polished farewell tour with tribute reels and handshakes. This was a straight-up abrupt resignation that had everyone scrambling for answers. The fallout hit immediately. That Tuesday morning, First Take opened with Stephen A. sitting solo, visibly emotional as he tried to hold the line.
We'll miss her and wish her every blessing on her future. I personally am grateful to her for her friendship, and I will miss spending every weekday morning with her right by my side.
His words were warm, yes, but also cryptic, like he was carefully tiptoeing around what he really knew. He stressed that Molly's announcement happened last night, showing just how blindsided he was. And then came the kicker. Later that very day on his Stephen A. Smith Show podcast, he let slip that there was more than being led on, but claimed it wasn't his place to reveal. Talk about dangling the bait. Fans went into full meltdown. Stephen wasn't spilling the tea, but he made it clear he was sitting on explosive information. Suddenly, every corner of the internet lit up with speculation about what forced Molly out so suddenly. And to add more mystery, ESPN's president of content, Burke Magnus, confirmed that even the bosses were caught off guard. He admitted the one thing that was unexpected was the timing. Translation. This wasn't ESPN's plan either. It was chaos behind the curtain. To understand just how seismic this move was, you have to realize what Molly meant to First Take. Since 2015, she wasn't just a moderator. She was the glue holding the show together. Ratings tell the story.
Night, she abruptly resigned as the host of the show. And to say that I'm quite sad about it is an understatement. Molly is a friend. Molly is a co-worker. Molly is somebody that I have leaned on many occasions in the past, as she has done when it comes to me.
The show routinely pulled over 500,000 viewers per episode, peaking in 2023 with its biggest year ever, pulling in record TV numbers while exploding to 250 million views on YouTube. But Molly's role went deeper than numbers. She brought credibility, professionalism, and balance to a show that could have easily spun off the rails. Stephen's energy was explosive, but Molly was the anchor, the fact-checker, the steady voice, the inclusive presence that elevated the show beyond just loud arguments. In a male-dominated space, she broke barriers while earning an Emmy back in 2008, proving she was more than just a TV host. She was a trailblazer. And then, of course, there was the chemistry. For 10 years, Molly and Steven perfected their dynamic, her calm, measured approach clashing perfectly with his fiery takes.
And a lot of times, some of these things happen, and it's just uncomfortable to see. The details, quite frankly, are none of y'all business. But it's not as if I know all the details. It was a contract negotiation that was going on.
She could challenge him, rein him in, or toss in a sharp one-liner that kept the debates entertaining without devolving into chaos. Together, they built First Take into ESPN's crown jewel, which makes her sudden exit feel less like a resignation and more like the aftermath of something explosive happening in the background. What made Molly's sudden exit even crazier was how there were zero warning signs. No rumors of beef, no leaks about backstage drama, not even a slight cutback in her airtime. If anything, First Take was thriving. Numbers were up year after year, pulling bigger ratings and staying locked in as ESPN's crown jewel. One day she was on air as usual, and the very next she was gone. All that was left were her cryptic social media posts and Stephen A's carefully polished but suspiciously vague statements that raised more questions than answers. The way ESPN handled the immediate aftermath only made things sketchier. They didn't just confirm she was leaving, they announced she was done instantly. No final shows, no farewell episodes, nothing.
We all make decisions that we deem to be in our best interest for whatever reason. And that story is for her to tell. Do I have an idea? Of course I do. Am I going to share it with you? No. Because again, that's her story to tell.
The planned year-end transition got thrown out the window, swapped for a cut-and-run exit that screamed urgency. Why would a network as polished as ESPN, known for perfectly staged send-offs, suddenly fumble this hard? That's where the whispers started to spread. Something behind the curtain was broken. This wasn't about a clean contract wrap-up or a friendly parting of ways. No way. Something major collapsed in those negotiations, and it collapsed so badly that a veteran like Molly decided walking out immediately was better than sticking around. For someone as steady and professional as her, that says a whole lot. And here's where it gets wild. This wasn't just about leaving a morning show. Behind the cameras, this was about money, power, and respect. The kind of high-stakes negotiation that went off the rails in spectacular fashion. The industry is buzzing with insiders saying this was a classic contract war, but with layers of workplace politics and influence games stacked on top. Let's talk money first, because the numbers alone explain why Molly might have felt like she was fighting an uphill battle.
I was going through a contract negotiation, obviously, and that was not going well, obviously, because Molly wasn't getting what she wanted. What did Molly want? Molly wanted to do other things at the network, which included hosting her own show. Let me land on my feet within the network, still be at the worldwide leader, and do my thing. Now, that wasn't happening.
Stephen A. Smith locked in a monster deal in 2024. 5 years, over $100 million. That's superstar athlete money. Meanwhile, Molly's reported salary hovered around $500,000 a year. Now, when you break that down, that's nearly a 40-to-1 pay gap between the two faces of the same flagship show. That's not just unfair, that's a canyon. Multiple reports say this huge disparity was a central sticking point in Molly's contract talks. But according to former ESPN analyst Marcellus Wiley, who knew Molly well from his time at the network, the issue went way beyond money. Wiley claims Molly wasn't just asking for a bigger paycheck, she was fighting for growth. She wanted her own platform, her own opportunities, something that recognized not just her loyalty, but the fact that she'd proven herself time and time again under pressure. And allegedly, ESPN shot down nearly all of her asks.
He signs off on you. When he signs for you, you get what you want. But guess what? There's a flip to it as well. When he doesn't sign off on you, when he doesn't sign for you, you don't get what you want.
Think about how wild that is. This is someone who helped navigate some of the most heated sports debates of the past decade, LeBron's team jumps, NFL protest controversies, and more. Molly wasn't just a moderator, she was the referee who kept chaos from taking over. Yet when it came time to reward that, ESPN apparently acted like she was replaceable. But here's where Wiley's theory turns explosive. He suggests this wasn't just ESPN's decision. It had everything to do with Stephen A. Smith's company. Wiley's take is that Stephen isn't just a star at ESPN. He's the unofficial power broker, a kingmaker who can boost careers, or quietly block them, based on whether he thinks you deserve to rise. And if Wiley is right, Molly's fight for growth might have run straight into Steven's shadow.
You're working at a network where Mina Kimes is making way more money than you, and Mina Kimes is the number what on what show?
Smith didn't use that influence to help Molly secure what she was fighting for, and that's where the story takes a sharp turn. Evidence keeps stacking up to support this theory. Multiple reports say Smith's massive extension gave him sway over first take decisions, from the topics debated to who sat across from him on set. Insiders even claim he's had a hand in who gets hired or quietly pushed out when it comes to roles tied to the show. That's power most TV hosts can only dream of. And Wiley's description of this pattern is not some far-fetched conspiracy. In the entertainment world, when a star becomes too valuable to lose, they gain an invisible crown, informal power that stretches way beyond what's in their contract. Steven's 9-figure deal and his status as the face of ESPN practically guarantee he wields influence in rooms most employees never even enter. So according to this theory, Smith has used that leverage to boost certain people up the ladder.
One of the worst kept secrets in the business is that they have a good relationship. They don't, right? They kind of tired on each other, etc. I'm not gonna go into all the messy details, but the point is they weren't cool with each other, to the point someone you work with for 10 years, you don't even mention them when you...
But clearly, Molly Qerim wasn't one of them. That selective support raises the million-dollar question. What makes Steven back one person but leave another twisting in the wind? And the timing of Molly's exit only makes this suspicion stronger. Here's why. ESPN executive Burke Magnus admitted that at first the plan was clean and simple. Molly would step away from First Take at year's end, but she wouldn't be leaving the company. The network promised she'd move into new roles, maybe even host her own show, take on special assignments, and expand her influence. It was the kind of career growth you'd expect for someone with nearly 2 decades of loyal service and a track record of keeping ESPN's hottest show from boiling over. But somewhere between that agreement and her abrupt Instagram announcement, it all collapsed. The graceful transition Molly thought she had lined up turned into a cold take it or leave it offer. Instead of stepping into bigger opportunities, she was backed into a corner that forced her to walk away completely.
Point is, she's seeing not only people getting paid, and none of them really on the #1 show. Think about it, Malika's show, always struggling in terms of who's going to be on there. Oh, the cast is not it. Oh, they haven't got their traction yet, but she getting paid. Mina Kimes, a lot of people criticizing her. At the same time, she getting paid. And then you, Molly, I'm #2 on the #1 show we got, and I can't get none.
Now here's the real kicker. Why would she bail immediately instead of riding out her contract for just a few more months? Industry insiders say the answer lies in one word: respect. Or in this case, the lack of it. After years of anchoring the chaos, elevating debates, and breaking barriers for women in sports media, Molly felt undervalued, plain and simple, and the comparisons are damning. When you line up ESPN's pay scale, Molly was making less than analysts with smaller roles on shows that pulled far fewer viewers. Imagine being the person who keeps the company's most important studio show from falling apart every single day, and then realizing people doing half the work on smaller platforms are pocketing more than you. That's not just frustrating, that's humiliating. The situation gets even uglier when you factor in ESPN's money crunch. Sure, the company's been slashing budgets, cutting staff, and dealing with cord-cutting headaches, but let's not ignore the obvious.
I'm talking about Molly here, but I'm watching, and I've been watching over the last several years, people in this business fall by the wayside because we forget that all of us ultimately answer to people. We don't get to define our own value. We don't get to define our own.
They still found over $20 million a year for Stephen A. If they could shovel out that kind of cash to keep one man happy, how could they not scrape together a fraction of that for the woman who balanced him out and gave the show its credibility? And this is where the power imbalance shines brightest. Stephen A's negotiations were smooth as silk. He asked, he got, he cashed in. Molly's, they stalled, they soured, and they ended with her walking away, brokenhearted and blindsided. The message was loud and clear: keep Steven smiling at all costs. But everyone else, expendable. For someone who gave 10 years to building First Take into a juggernaut, that wasn't just insulting, it was devastating. The workplace culture piece of this saga is just as troubling, and maybe even darker. If Marcellus Wiley's allegations about Stephen A. acting as ESPN's kingmaker are true, then advancement at the network isn't really about talent or hard work. It's about who you're connected to. That kind of setup creates a toxic system where gifted people see their careers frozen, not because they aren't good enough, but because they don't have the right allies in power. And once you peel back the layers of money and contracts, what surfaces is even more unsettling. Personal tensions, gender politics, and a behind-the-scenes culture insiders claim has been toxic for years. The deeper we dig, the more explosive the revelations get, painting a picture of a workplace ruled not by merit, but by control and influence. Wiley has been especially vocal about what he calls the hidden beef between Molly and Stephen A. And his insights flip everything we thought we knew about First Take. For years, fans believed they were watching genuine chemistry and mutual respect on camera. But according to Wiley, a lot of that was just smoke and mirrors, a professional act masking tensions that were boiling under the surface. Think about it, they spent a decade side by side. Daily shows, special events, promo shoots, endless production meetings. They were practically work spouses for 10 years. To now hear that so much of that relationship may have been strictly business, with growing friction behind closed doors. That screams dysfunction way beyond simple personality clashes. And Wiley didn't stop there. He raised an even bigger issue: how female talent is treated compared to men at ESPN. He claims there's been a long-running pattern of undervaluing women, and Molly's situation might be the clearest example yet. She watched other female personalities in less central roles get better pay and better opportunities, while she, despite anchoring ESPN's most important studio show, was offered scraps in comparison. The gender dynamics here can't be ignored. For Molly, the insult wasn't just financial, it was psychological. Imagine carrying the network's top debate show on your back, navigating chaos daily, earning record-breaking numbers, yet watching others with smaller responsibilities get treated better. That's a message loud and clear about how the network viewed her contributions and her future. Now here's where the final insult lands. Insiders say ESPN's renewal offer to Molly wasn't even close to what she deserved. While they threw Stephen A. more than $20 million a year, Molly's offer was allegedly so low it felt like a slap in the face. Considering her Emmy-winning resume, her decade-long run, and her impact on ratings, the gap was not just unfair, it was insulting. And then came Stephen A.'s response. His cryptic comments and podcast rants about knowing your leverage and understanding your place in the hierarchy raised eyebrows everywhere. Sure, he never dropped Molly's name directly, but the timing spoke volumes. Days after she walked away, he's delivering thinly veiled lectures that sounded like warnings about what happens when you push back against the power structure. The subtext was obvious. Know your place, don't overreach, and remember who's in charge. That's what makes this so chilling. By talking in generalities, Stephen can deny he was calling her out, but everyone listening knew exactly who he was referring to. It was a message meant to sting, and it did. Now the rumor mill is heating up about Molly's next move, and this part is huge. Reports say Fox Sports has stepped in with a major offer, possibly worth around $2 million annually. That's 4 times what she was rumored to be making at ESPN. Not only would that validate her market value, but it would also send ESPN a sharp reminder: if you don't respect your talent, someone else will. And a move like that, it could shake the sports media game to its core. Imagine First Take finally facing real competition from a rival platform with Molly leading the charge. Meanwhile, ESPN is scrambling to find a replacement. They announced a 30 to 45-day audition process, but insiders are skeptical. Can anyone really replicate the balance and professionalism Molly brought? Or will ESPN play it safe and pick someone who defers to Stephen, keeping the status quo intact? That's the big test, and the answer will reveal a lot about what the network really values. And that's where we leave it for now. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one.